In the very beginning, before time as we know it existed, God created everything out of nothing. The skies, the land, the seas, and all living creatures came into being by His command. Among His remarkable creations was a lush and beautiful garden known as the Garden of Eden. It was an exquisite paradise, a perfect place filled with every kind of tree, plant, and flower imaginable. The air was filled with sweet fragrances, and colorful blooms painted the landscape. There were trees that bore fruit of every flavor, and the rivers flowed with crystal clear water. In this magnificent garden, God placed the first man, Adam. Adam was unlike any other creature. He was created in the image of God Himself. He had the ability to think, feel, and communicate with his Creator. God took great care in forming Adam from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, making him a living being. Adam was given the task of tending to the garden, nurturing it, and enjoying the bounty it provided. God instructed him, saying, "You may eat freely from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you do, you will certainly die." God wanted Adam to enjoy the freedom of the garden, while also understanding the importance of obedience. As Adam explored his beautiful home, he felt a sense of wonder and joy. He named the animals and observed their behaviors, marveling at their uniqueness. Yet, as time passed, God saw that something was not quite right. Adam was alone, and God declared, "It is not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." So, God caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep. While he slept, God took one of Adam's ribs and from it created a woman, Eve. When Adam awoke and saw Eve, he was filled with joy. He exclaimed, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man." Adam and Eve lived together in harmony, surrounded by the beauty of the garden. They walked and talked with God freely, enjoying a close relationship with Him. There was no shame between them. They were both naked and felt no embarrassment. They were innocent and lived in perfect peace, without fear or guilt. However, lurking within the garden was a serpent, a crafty and deceitful creature. One day, the serpent approached Eve and spoke to her. "Did God really say that you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" Eve replied, "We can eat the fruit from any tree except for the one in the middle of the garden. If we touch it or eat from it, we will die." The serpent, sly and persuasive, contradicted her, saying, "You won't die. God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." The serpent was planting seeds of doubt in Eve's mind, making her question God's intentions. Eve looked at the fruit on the tree. It was beautiful and appeared delicious, and she thought about the knowledge the serpent promised. The allure of wisdom and the desire to be like God overwhelmed her. Overcome by temptation, she reached out, picked the fruit, and took a bite. As the sweet juice filled her mouth, she felt a rush of excitement and curiosity. Wanting to share this newfound experience, she gave some to Adam, who was standing nearby. He took a bite as well. In that instant, everything changed. Suddenly, their eyes were opened, and they realized they were naked. Shame flooded over them, and they felt exposed. Quickly, they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves, trying to hide their vulnerability. As they hid among the trees, they heard God walking in the garden during the cool of the day. Fear gripped them, and they tried to conceal themselves. God called out to Adam, "Where are you?" Trembling, Adam replied, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." God asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from?" Adam, feeling cornered, blamed Eve, saying, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." Eve, in turn, blamed the serpent, saying, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." Their attempts to shift blame only added to their shame. God listened to their excuses. but knew what had happened. Turning to the serpent, God declared, "Because you have done this, you are cursed above all livestock and wild animals. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." Next, God spoke to Eve, saying, "I will greatly increase your pains in childbirth. In pain, you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." To Adam, God said, "Because you listened to your wife, and ate from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field." With heavy hearts, Adam and Eve realized the gravity of their actions. God made garments of skin for them to wear, providing them with protection and covering their shame. However, they had to leave the Garden of Eden, the paradise they had once known. God said, "You must not eat from the tree of life, for if you do, you will live forever in your fallen state." As they were banished from the garden, God placed cherubim and a flaming sword at the entrance to guard the way to the tree of life. Adam and Eve stepped into a new world filled with challenges and hardships. Gone were the days of carefree existence. Now they would have to toil the ground, work hard, and face the realities of life outside the garden. In their new life, Adam and Eve experienced a range of emotions. They felt sadness for what they had lost, but they also discovered the joy of being together. As they started their family, they learned to appreciate the beauty of their surroundings, even amidst the struggles. They tended to their crops and livestock, developing skills and resilience. As the seasons changed, Adam and Eve welcomed their first child, Cain. They were filled with hope and excitement as they raised him in their humble. When their second child, Abel, was born, their family felt even more complete. Adam and Eve worked hard to teach their sons the lessons they had learned, sharing the importance of obedience and the consequences of straying from God's path. However, as their children grew, the world began to change. Cain and Abel became very different from one another. Cain was a farmer, and Abel was a shepherd. Both brothers offered sacrifices to God, but God favored Abel's offering over Cain's. Feeling jealous and rejected, Cain's heart filled with anger. One day Cain lured Abel into the fields, and, in a fit of rage, killed him. When God confronted Cain, asking where his brother was, Cain responded defiantly, "Am I my brother's keeper?" God, knowing what Cain had done, declared, "What have you done? Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. You are now cursed, and you will wander the earth as a fugitive." Cain was filled with despair, realizing the weight of his actions. God, in his mercy, marked Cain to protect him from being killed by others. Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden, carrying the burden of his guilt. Meanwhile, Adam and Eve continued to live their lives, grieving the loss of Abel and the change in their son, Cain. They understood that their choices had lasting effects, not just on them, but also on their children. Yet, in the midst of their sorrow, they found comfort in their family and the hope that came with each new generation. Eve gave birth to another son, Seth, whom she viewed as a gift from God to replace Abel. Seth grew up to be a righteous man, and through him, the line of faithful worshippers began to flourish. Adam and Eve experienced the joy of having a family, and they taught their children about God and the importance of obedience. As the years passed, the world continued to grow and change. The earth was populated with people, and many turned away from God, following their own desires and corrupting the beautiful creation He had made. But through it all, the legacy of Adam and Eve remained. They had learned valuable lessons about obedience, love, and the consequences of their choices. Despite the pain of their past, Adam and Eve found purpose in their lives. They worked hard, loved each other, and cherished their family. They shared stories of the Garden of Eden, hoping to instill in their children and grandchildren the values they had learned. And while they could never return to the paradise they once knew, they discovered that even in a fallen world, they could still find beauty, joy, and hope in their relationships and their faith in God. Throughout their lives, Adam and Eve's story became a reminder of the importance of choices, the depth of God's love, and the promise of redemption that would one day come.